Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Cervena Barva Press triple book launch. And tonight we celebrate three new books by Ellen, Jesse, and James. So I want to show you their books. This is Natural Tendencies by James. I'll go back a little. This one is American Queers by Jesse. And Heavenly Bodies at the Met by Ellen. So I'm really excited that they all could be here tonight to share their new work with you. So let's get started. Our first reader is Ellen Devlin. Her new book I just showed you, Heavenly Bodies at the Met, and she is also author of Rita, which was also published by Cervena Barva Press. She has been published in numerous literary journals, including the Cortland Review, PANK, the New Ohio Review, the Sow's Ear, and many others. And I give you Ellen.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Good to see you here. Thanks for coming. I'd also like to thank Gloria Mindock and Cervena Barva Press for bringing this little book into the world. And I'd also like to congratulate my fellow book launchers. I'm looking forward to hearing your work. So, in 2018, the Metropolitan Museum of Art held an exhibit called Heavenly Bodies. They invited couture from all over the world that had any connection to Catholic iconography. The first time I saw the exhibit, I cried. And on that day, I had no idea what felt so compelling to me. So I went back 28 times to stand with the pieces that called to me until I heard what they said. So all of the poems I'm reading are titled with the names that the designers gave to their pieces. Guadeloupe, evening dress, Jean-Paul Gaultier, designer. Grieving Mother Mary, your silk heart sheathes a small metal dagger. Blue jersey beauty Mary, you draw us close, make us yearn for you. Who doesn't want a mother who pierces her own heart for us, pours out her silk blood red, shimmering, wet as if it just happened, as if it has always just happened. Ensemble, John Galliano. Warrior queen lying in state, do you keep or forget linden trees combed by sunlight and the flight of crows? What do the dead want, carrying their swords or babies or the pair they were eating into the abyss? Warrior queen lying in state, silver threaded, black silk gowned, a crystal crown of seahorses, one side of your body armored, one open. Nothing protected you, floating forever now, buried in the detritus of ocean floor, sightless. Is sound a silver-handled mirror? Is Amen the taste of stillness? Ensemble, Jean-Paul Gaultier, designer. I kept walking past you, the sign that read Joan of Arc, avoiding your young face, light hair resting on a pillow, your dead body slight, unbearable. The white chemise didn't reach your bare feet. A satin corset bound your torso, its garter tabs lying on your thin legs, one sleeve of plate armor. This one is called Ensemble, Rick Owen, designer. A monk's robe, brown broadcloth, a hole cut in the tunic below the waist. I was 13, kneeling in a confessional. You asked me where I was touched, on which parts of my body, how many times. I stopped answering. You leaned your sweat-slicked head into the lattice window between us. The wet wool smell of your cassock, your cigarette breath pushed into the small divide between us. I had no name for the cold fear your anticipation breathed through my body. Evening Ensemble, Piccoli and Graziaciuri, designers. Black silk cape embroidered with gold stars, contours of a cassock now on a woman's body. This confessor opens the lattice screen, takes my hands in hers, and fills them with her necklace and the gold band around her hair. To wear in holy joy the next time I invite touch. This is my body. Cocktail dress, designer Gabrielle Coco Chanel. I know the iconography of wheat stalks on gold silk gown, its embroidered oracles wrapping the stem, where sheath meets leaf, and gold-painted feathers lift and sway at the shoulders. I think bread of life. I do not believe or disbelieve blessed bread has the presence of God. Food is enough. It doesn't matter. Sharing bread is enough. Evening Ensemble. Pier Paolo Piccolio, designer. Among all the imagined nuns' habits, I knew which one was you. The black cashmere dress, jewel collar, long sleeves, a panel of ivory silk falling from the yoke to the floor. Not your actual habit, but your essence. No excess, no hard edges. I was 8, and you have stayed with me. I see you when I write. Ensemble, Tom Brown. It was April. A finch was singing from a tree with a small birdhouse nailed to a trunk. I spent years with you, sister, came only as close as the sound of your skirt moving across the floor. You returned today in this black cape, your nose and mouth swathed in white lamb's wool. And again, I was object, you were interrogator. What were you looking for in my unbrushed hair, the silence you required of rooms? A little girl crying for her mother pulled at a door you locked, ran to you, clawed at your skirts, buried her face in your untouchable volume. You beat her with a closed fist, pushing the wide arc of your sleeves up your arms. The floor was gray and yellow tiled. In the corner, a small table with 3 chairs. The walls were green. Evening Ensemble, Galliano, designer. Boys dressed in red tunics sat on a wall outside the museum, dangling rosary beads like fishing lines. 600 in all gathered in protest. Some came by bus, some joined in on the way back from the grocery store. They leaned against the police gates, prayed and sang hymns, offended by a med exhibit of a woman's body dressed in papal regalia, tiara, mozetta, cassock, delicate shoulders, a bust line, the fullness of a woman's hips. I always used to see people turning pages when they read, and I thought they were very confident, but it's actually easier. So we'll have one more. Poem, Statuary Vestment for the Madonna delle Grazie. Designers, poor Benedictine nuns of Luce. As if you were not enough, carved from butterwood, set high above your altar in the church named for you. You were dressed by nuns in a blue silk mantle, a skyscape of embroidered stars, your ivory silk gown flowering, vines of gold passementerie, a silver crown with gold cherubs placed on your head. Our Lady of Graces, how sure of your favor petitioners must have been, lighting the red votive candles placed before you, how willing to leave their coins in the middle box. There is so much hope in the dilation of the human eye when gazing at crystals and gold thread. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. And our next reader is Jessie Mavro Diamond. Her writings have explored issues of identity, gender politics, and the diverse societal influences that shape our lives. She is the author of 4 plays and 6 volumes of poetry, including Swimming the Hellespont, whose title poem was chosen to be honored by the Tennessee Williams Literary Festival. And I give you Jessie.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I want to thank Gloria especially for wanting to publish American Queers. And I want to thank Anne O'Connell, to whom I am married, for doing the remarkable cover. And of course, I want to thank you for showing up. And that first reading was beautiful, by the way. American Queers is devoted to 4 great leaders of the early queer movement in the middle of the last century in the United States. I felt that at this time in my life, it was important to remember my ancestors and do what I could as a poet and a teacher to pass on some knowledge about these incredibly brave, bold people. I'm going to begin with Stormy DeLarvery. Stormy DeLarvery was rumored to have thrown the first punch at Stonewall. And from my research, it's quite likely that she did. The uprising itself, I don't call it a riot, but the uprising itself soon followed that first punch. In what I call in the book, The Kingdom of Queer, I assign roles to these great leaders, and Stormy DeLarvery is the king. And this poem is called King Storm Defeats the Fearsome Uglies. Now, uglies is what Stormy called all of the people who discriminated against anyone else. And she would roam the streets of the village protecting gay people. She was not shy to fight. And that's another reason I think she probably might have thrown the first punch. This is called, again, King Storm Defeats the Fearsome Uglies. The nation had long been conquered by the uglies. An entire country waits year after year, starving for America the Beautifuls to begin their resistance. In Washington, Congress, the Supreme Court, in this land is your land, this land is my land. Planted in the fields of corn growing high as an elephant's eye, in the seed sown by Johnny you-know-who, and the apples plucked and baked in the apple pies. The uglies have infected the population's majority with a virus that clouded the head first, then hardened the heart, then spasmodically curled and closed the hands in locked fists. No longer. King Storm confronted face to face a band of uglies dressed in their typical martial uniforms. Nightsticks, guns, brass knuckles, foul language, and authority. Single-handedly, with fingers like vice grips, she grabbed one ugly so tight his red, white, and blue-blooded pulse was completely cut off, causing him to collapse. Within minutes, the historically silenced, bullied beauties sprang into action, punching, kicking, brawling, and screaming their echoing cry. We're here, we're here, we're queer, we're queer. Get used to it, get used to it, get used to it. The second person I'm going to read a poem for is Dick Lightish. Now, Dick Lightish joined together with several other gay men to break the legal code, which was prohibiting gay men from drinking wherever they wanted to. At that time, the bars were mafia bars, and gay men were declared by the law in New York State to be disorderly, and therefore bartenders would not serve them. So these folks created something called the sit-in in 1966, modeled after the sit-in, the civil rights sit-in. And because they created the sit-in, that particular law started to really break down. Sit-in, 1966. Carpenters, bankers, bricklayers, undertakers. Why gay bars? Because we could only be gay in gay bars. The New York State Liquor Authority CEO. No discrimination in bars. Why? Because bars had the right to refuse customers not acting suitably, therefore disorderly. Bankers, bricklayers, undertakers, carpenters, and Dick, a former Tiffany salesman, all risking entrapment. Wasn't flirtation with a cute undercover cop worth the risk? At the West Village Bar, John, Richard, Craig, and Randy dropped the H-word bomb. We are homosexuals, and we want to drink. Craig, Randy, John, and Richard, I can't serve you. You're not suitable, therefore disorderly. It's true. When a carpenter has sex with a banker, or a bricklayer has sex with an undertaker, or a John has sex with a Craig, or a Randy has sex with a Richard, being orderly is simply not suitable. The third heroic figure I want to mention is a Black lesbian poet named Pat Parker. Pat Parker died of breast cancer at the age of 45. But even so, even that young, she had established herself as an incredibly outspoken gay person and someone who was not at all afraid to say what she believed. And this poem is called Beginnings for Pat Parker. Black in Texas, dirt poor in a tin house. By God, the girl was bound for nowhere and nothing, unless by the skin of her teeth, she persevered, poking through the detritus of human wastelands, hewn with hatred, fertilized with fear. And then, through savage determination, she searched beneath her scorched feet, spotted Pan's pipes, lifted them boldly to her parched lips, and blew the blues away, all the way, to the promised land, Oakland, Berkeley, and the East Bay. And Pat Parker in the Kingdom of Queer is the muse, and Dick Lightish, I think I forgot to mention, is the queen. Finally, I want to read a poem for Charlie Shively. Charlie is the only one of my four heroes whom I personally knew. I taught with him at UMass Boston in the Law and Justice program. And again, his voice was so bold, so unafraid. And he was someone I admired because he would not back down. In fact, none of these folks would back down from confrontation with prejudice, from any fear they may have had as homosexuals. They just went forward. I love Charlie, and I want to read the poem Charlie's Ghost Visits with Walt in hand. I am strolling on a Cambridge street in June as an electric blue 1966 Chevrolet Impala convertible pulls over. Its top is down, but the windows are up. One of the men inside whistles as I pass. I turn to give him a piece of my mind. LOL, it's Charlie driving, the bearded one at his side, in his cocked, wide-brimmed felt hat. Charlie! I can't hear you, he says, rolling down the window. Looking at the bearded one, I ask, are you who I think you are? I can't hear you, he says, rolling down his window. Charlie, the ghost of gay liberation past, adds, we the people weren't whistling at you. We were whistling at something we just set free. Never mind that, I say, sensing he's moving toward his lascivious poetics. Listen, since both of you are gone, but both of you are here, what are you doing? I am about to celebrate the body electric, says you-know-who. And I will follow by shockingly pronouncing as many crude words as possible, Charlie adds. He begins unbuttoning the beard's linen shirt. The beard unbuckles Charlie's bib overalls. Bye, guys, I say quickly, since I really don't want to stick around for the celebration of their electric cells and the shocking words to come. It begins to rain. They roll up their windows. Charlie turns on the car, puts it in reverse, peels back, jumps the curb, hits a metal garbage can, sending it tumbling and turning in the road. So much for state-mandated garbage, Charlie the anarchist shouts. Putting the pedal to the metal, they rip into the horizon at the speed of memory. I won't forget you, Charlie, I shout, setting right the garbage can. I begin again, strolling and whistling, following their burnt rubber tracks down the vanishing road. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Jessie. Our next reader is James B. Nicola. His poems have appeared in the Atlanta Review and Southwest Review, Rattle, Barrow Street, and many other journals. He is the author of 7 full-length collections. His nonfiction book, Playing the Audience, won a Choice Award. He has received a Dana Literary Award, 2 Willow Review Awards, Storyteller's People's Choice Award, 1 Best of Net, 1 Rhysling, and 10 Pushcart nominations. And I give you James.
Hello, everybody. You can hear me all right. Yes, the mic is working. Beautiful. Just an honor to be with you all. Thank you, Michael Palma, for being here and writing such nice words for the back of the book. And thank you, Gloria, for publishing. And thank you to my 2 other fellow authors. What an education. I feel like I've been to the Met, and I feel like I've been to the 60s in New York City. Where I live, I'm right above the Lincoln Tunnel. So I think the Massachusetts-New York connection is pretty strong here. This book, Natural Tendencies, I'll gloss it a little more honestly, let you know that its working title was Animus Paganus. And then I thought, no, Natural Tendencies does it, but it really is a celebration of nature in a sort of worshipful way. Part one is called Walkways and Waterways, and this poem is called Tripping, and it's about taking a walk. I gotta change my glasses. Tripping. Near the deep of my favorite woods, paths start to interlace and fuse, as if in love. Below, roots and rocks mingle, while above, the trees' limbs tangle too. This is the heart of the forest, where veins meet and enthrall like mountain shafts in a mystical cave. I gaze up, forgetting how floors behave, and gambling as I gape, I trip and fall. I've done this too on mountains, hiking high, and also once on my Grand Canyon climb. For nature can so dazzle with her sky, I'll overlook the low for the sublime and stumble yet again. If only I could look both up and down at the same time. That is Tripping, the one of the walkways. And for the waterway, I'm going to bring you to Snow. This poem is called Snow. One monster of the season, lighter than the cold, ice, sleet, or wind. When snow arrives, I greet her wildly humbled. Once I ran to make an angel in her, twice a man of her. Not every creature, though, survives the winter, I have learned, and so her white is not so lily pure, and my delight in snow comes now a little mixed with fear, or awe, let's say. I tremble for the lives of others, see, but tell myself at night, such shivers signal that her new fall might be trying to remind us who is near by making things mysterious but bright, at least until the snowdrifts disappear. And when I wake, I see that snow is right. So that is part one, Walkways and Waterways. Part two, we move to Flora and Fauna, and 41. And this is Ivy. And you might picture Ivy at an Ivy League school or an academy of some sort. Ivy. Ivy never boasts a flower, but will cling as new shoots grow, soar as high as any tower, soaking what the stones bestow, scaling monuments of power past the students strewn below. When a steeple chimes an hour, old souls scattered long ago haunt a place they used to know, watching Ivy speed and slow. And this one sort of mixes both fauna and flora with talking about the many varieties of things nature has that just flabbergast me, for one. This is called Kinds. And it's a true story, but it's not really a story, it's a reflection. Kinds. There are so many varieties of fruits and mushrooms safe to chew, of plants with flowers wrought to please the eye and nose of birds and bees, that happen to please persons too, that sometimes I can see how you might think there's what you call divine intelligence in the design. I can even recall the time as a child that I first tasted lime. Refreshed, I thought, no, felt, no, knew, no, actually swallowed the sublime. And after all, the world had been almost as fine with only lemon. The choice could only have been due to God, I guessed. But then I grew and tasted all the marks of wine, the Mogan David and the fine, decanted both to please and sell, so any believer might just as well have called the supreme intelligence a vintner, marketer, inventor, the one that makes the difference. choosing your poor moniker forsakes the heart for the brain or mind. His work is brilliantly designed, but may not be more wise than kind, which the child in me still learns, I suppose, time after time after time after time from every mushroom, lemon, lime, and rose. And I go through that every day when I go outside, still to Central Park or whatever like that. Now, you might remember Oliver Wendell Holmes, a great New England institution, also both the judge and the poet, and that he had the fabulous poem about a nautilus. And just a reminder, nautilus is just a big word for a snail. Nautilus. Were I a little nautilus and had outgrown my shell, one of the things I might now do would be to hop an outbound bus with someone rash and fine as you to try out a new role. But if I had my druthers, it would be more than a spent frame I'd leave behind for others for a wee spot of fame, even though before I'd go I'd know to sign my name. But what it seems I really am, as you've remarked too well, is not a nautilus, but more a clam. So, before I leave to give the world a whirl, I'll stay a while and learn a way to leave the world a pearl. And that's what we sort of do with our writing, isn't it? A cute one about an animal is actually a sonnet. I'll just give you the clue, but it's all over the page. As a fly, it might be all over you. Fly. He tickles me for the last time, I swear, and fetch the swatter, then pick up my book and sit back down. By then, he is not there, but every inch imagined makes me look before I scratch. And then I think I hear, all right, I'm ready for him. Where's the buzz coming from now? I dare him to appear. He won't do what I tell him to because he is a fly. Then suddenly he drops down to the carcass of another fly, like Romeo in the tomb, about to die himself, if not to suck the dead one dry, that he might live. As suddenly he stops and clasps his hands and holds them up to pray, as if a fly could. Then he's on his way, dissolving, buzz and all, into the skies. It's difficult for me to murder flies. That is flies. One more about an insect, and also leading to a little homage to Emily Dickinson, who, for my nature, not only loved, for my book, not only loved nature, but loved bees. And so this is the case with bees. And it's also a true story. When we were kids, we were taught that bumblebees couldn't fly. They were too big for their wings aerodynamically. I think that's been disproved in the last 20, 30 years. But the point was, no one told the bumblebee, did I say butterfly? The bumblebee, so it flew anyway. A miracle. So when I grew up, I thought every time I saw a bumblebee fly was miraculous. The case with bees. And the big ones should not fly, our science says. They disagree and bumble up in the sky. Nor can I say for certain why I've never been stung by a bee. Since I've conversed with ravens and my cat, as I did when I was young, I thought I'd also try to chat with bees, especially when they've sat on my arm. So far, they haven't stung. Should you be bothered by a bee, then do not scream or swat or flit, but rather try what's worked for me and comes with a money-back guarantee. Stay calm and softly speak to it. And then moving to part 3, indeed is a homage to Emily Dickinson. Part 3 is called Spirit and Sky. Oh, I got the wrong page number. 64, there it is, I'm right on it. This is called Gazing. Every time I look up and think Emily Dickinson is looking down. And you remember she called herself a pagan, semi-jokingly, but really she did see the divine through nature, which really is what, paganism is all about, whether you deify, it or not, or just think the divine is in nature, is moot compared to her reverence for nature. Gazing, to ED. Fellow pagan, lady pagan, You've invited me to gaze up at the summer sky. I've glimpsed beyond the blue and wisps of white, the way I know that you were wont to do. Oh my. And now I'm trying winter skyscapes too. I've learned the glitter in the black tonight will dissolve to blue with morning, and that till then any star that twinkles might be you winking at me. During the day it's any noisy bee or bird that flaps so hard a plume's set free, and like fall leaves falls happily, hopefully, from wherever it is you are. And just a reminder of that other thing that Emily Dickinson loved, which was birds. Remember, the thing with feathers is hope, was her fabulous quote. The last poem of the evening is the last poem of the book, and it is called So Many, and it's dedicated to all of you. So many. God did not have to make so many stars. I do not have to write so many words. There do not have to be so many flowers. There are so many people in the world. And yet, the space between the stars is cold and dark, as is the space between them and us. As for words, the story can't be told for every listener to understand the inexplicable. A blossom may reveal, but can't requite, hence millions more. Each tries to consummate what nature's for. And one lone soul might likewise warm my way to light. And God, it won't be when I've met, but you, whom I have not imagined yet. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And Gloria, thank you so much for publishing our books. God bless you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, James. Can we give the three readers a really big round of applause for tonight? They were so wonderful.